This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
Hi, welcome to Positive Momentum TV. I'm Diane Silva, and we're continuing our series on Alzheimer's, and we have two of Alzheimer's volunteers. We have Jarad and we have Cheryl, and we're going to discuss volunteering, what they do, what brought them to Alzheimer's, and any other stories they prefer to tell us. And we also have an audience, some people in the audience that we may be taking questions from. Would you mind give us a little bit of your story and what you do, Jarad?
Yeah, you bet. I am from Norfolk, Nebraska, and I'm an events director at our local Chamber of Commerce. And before that, I had worked in long-term care for over 5 years, wow, which brought me to the Alzheimer's cause.
Cool. And Cheryl?
Hi, my name is Cheryl, and I'm an Alzheimer's volunteer. I've been volunteering for the Alzheimer's since 2003.
Wow. So what brought you to Alzheimer's?
Well, I became interested in taking care of older adults when I was working as a nurse practitioner in mental health.
Wow, we're gonna have to go further on that one. That one sounds really good. Jarad, what brought you to Alzheimer's? You said you had the elderly adults.
Yeah, so I worked in a few different long-term care centers, and they all had dementia and Alzheimer's neighborhoods.
Okay.
So I literally witnessed hundreds of families go through this horrible disease, and I had to be a part of it. I had to be a part of the solution in the world to rid us of this disease after seeing so many families go through it.
Okay, so can we touch just a little bit on the volunteering aspect? Mm-hmm. You know, so many people are kind of going, well, I want to volunteer, but I don't want to spend all my time doing that, or I don't want to overcommit, because so many of us, we get excited and then we kind of go, oh man, I really over. Mm-hmm. How would you address something? How would you kind of be able to get into Alzheimer's or any kind of volunteering and not overly? Kind of speak to that a little bit. I'm kind of feeling a little blah.
Well, there's so many ways that you can get involved, little ways. And if you're just coming to the organization, just start small. Go to your local office and meet the team members. Come to a walk day and work registration, because when you see the masses of purple and all the people coming together for this cause, I guarantee you're going to just keep coming back for more and more and keep volunteering.
Do you have anything to add?
For me, it became evident as I worked in my job day in, day out. I saw so much suffering that the family members, the caregivers experienced from taking care of their loved one with Alzheimer's or any type of dementia. And I just felt that that was something that I needed to contribute to helping to solve, similar to Jarad.
So, one of the things, I mean, I have a family member with Alzheimer's, and so it's kind of difficult. But from your standpoint, you see it differently, or maybe a broader spectrum. You're not emotionally, I don't know, that's not the right word, but you're emotionally invested differently. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what if you, oh my God, I've got so many questions going through my head. Since I'm having a little problem, let's go to the audience and see if maybe they have any questions.
Sure. One of the questions I have is, when you volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association, can you tell us a little bit more about your specific role and how that role has transpired over the years that you've been involved? So maybe Jarad?
Yeah, you bet. So I started out through the long-term care center. I started out with a walk. So I was a team captain for one of the teams, very small. I started out just fundraising in my organization and getting people excited to raise money for this cause. And then I just kind of kept building up from there. So then I started being on the walk committee. And then I eventually took over my local walk in Norfolk, Nebraska. And now I even help with events here in Lincoln and Omaha.
Wow,
so
nice.
And then in my case, it goes back to my work.
Right.
And seeing people day in, day out. and also seeing that I could contribute to helping to relieve some of the suffering that the caregivers and the family members experienced. And I also helped to facilitate a support group for caregivers. And I do that, and I've been doing that since 2003, once a month.
So you both have impacts, but on different sides of the organization. So you're directly with families and the Alzheimer's patients, persons with diagnosis. I understand that that's the way to address them. And you're more on the fundraising. So it's possible to get into and help volunteer and help further the cause of the Alzheimer's Association without having to either get in with the families, or you can go in where you're kind of in the background helping in different manners.
You bet.
But it's still it seems very fulfilling. Do you have any more other questions?
What has been your most fulfilling experience as a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Association? Can you give an example?
Well,
Sure.
for me, it's been able to see the family members as far as when you give them a suggestion or that support, they can say, I think that'll work. Or they come back and they say, that really helped me to better understand what's going on with my mom or my dad. A lot of times they feel so alone that they're the only ones experiencing this situation. And in our support groups, they hear from other caregivers, yes, I went through that with my dad. Yes, I went through that with my wife. And they can feel that they're part of a group or a team
And they're
to
not
help
an
solve
island.
this.
And I understand we go through, we have a support group that we go over at Brighton Gardens with Carol and Bev. And wonderful people, wonderful people.
Yeah.
And it has helped my husband so much to be able to go in there and not feel like an island, not feel so alone. And it's still a devastating disease, and you still have to go through this like anything by yourself, but not by yourself. It's kind of like being sick. You have to deal with it yourself. You know, you got a cold, but there's people around you who can help you. And I know it's cold and Alzheimer's aren't the same thing, but you know, it's just the point. So, what was more fulfilling for you?
Well, there's like so many different causes to get behind in the world, and I'm so glad I picked this one because the Alzheimer's Association is who they say they are. They do what they say they do. They put their money where their mouth is. And for me, the experience that really brought that to a pivotal moment was when I went to the national conference. And every year they host a national conference, and volunteers have the opportunity to come and really see where the dollars are going, and to see the numbers of where they put it towards research, where they put it towards advocacy and care groups was really, really impactful on my life. So,
I understand. It's amazing, and I can't commend you guys enough for taking your time and your energies and your knowledge and helping those who are going through such a rough time, and you don't know them, and that's where it's great to be a volunteer. You know, whether it's for Alzheimer's in the caregiving, or person with diagnosis support, or helping them raise funds, or go where you're drawn, and you don't have to jump in. You can dip in your toe a little bit, or give them a call and say, okay, is there anything I can do? I'm new at this, I'm not sure where I want to go. And I'm sure everybody has done this at least once, or the people who are in charge know that there's people who are a little skittish, or maybe, the persons like me who are touched by Alzheimer's and want to get more involved, but because of their situation, we can't get too involved because we never know when we're going to be pulled to do as a caregiver, when our position's going to explode and we have to take care of something. So I just want to, would you guys like to speak to that a little bit? I know you see a lot of that being up close and personal.
With the family and the caregiving, it can take a toll on the caregiver, especially. And in my support group, I always stress that the caregiver has to care for themselves first. And one thing that I will sometimes have them do, it's called a caregiver stress test.
Oh.
And it's developed by the Alzheimer's, and supported by the Alzheimer's Association. So it's something that they can look at as far as how is this illness with my loved one impacting me. And research and studies show that as far as a caregiver, your caregiving will affect you physically and emotionally.
Right. And I know there's some who, they want to reach out and touch, go to speak with their loved one or be with their loved one, but emotionally they are so distressed that they're unable to actually help their loved one. They're hurting themselves by being in that position. So this is where it's wonderful to have the support groups and people to talk to in the Alzheimer's Association. And does the Alzheimer's Association deal with just Alzheimer's, or can they help with people with overall dementia and maybe help with like the Lewy bodies and other? Can either one of you speak to that?
Well, go ahead.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, some of the different walks we go to, not everyone has the Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a form of dementia,
Right.
but the people that have all the different types of dementia are going through the exact same things. So we welcome them with open arms.
Well,
Very
that's
true. The families, especially, they experience similar situations, so they can be a support to one another.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm going to go back to our audience and see if they have any more questions.
Jared, it seems that some of the causes or the roles that you have in your professional life are very much so young professional. And one of the things the Alzheimer's Association is attempting to do, I understand, is engage young professionals. And so as a young professional, do you ever get questions about, well, why do you choose this cause? Or have you ever thought about what it's like to be a young professional and be engaged in a cause that is for people that are older adults?
Oh yes, all the time. And Alzheimer's is such, it's not a widespread, huge, mass-produced cause as some other causes out there. So I think it's really starting to catch on. So a lot of people, especially in my community, they haven't really caught on to that yet. And I have a committee of other young professionals, and they're behind me 100% too, trying to push the cause. So when I used to work in long-term care, I used to see the patients, and they literally lose the pathways in their brain to control their emotions. So when they might have 100 bad days where they can't control their emotions and they can't control who they are, their personality. But then there's one day where they shine through, and they might crack a joke, or they're the person that they were meant to be. And that one day is the reason I do what I do, and it's the reason I do it at the age I'm at, to fight for it when I get older.
That's a very fair statement, and that's one of the things maybe you can speak with your medical background is, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell Jared that that's very commendable, because you always hear so many things about young people, being so superficial, but that
Right.
is something that is very commendable.
Thank you.
Yes.
And as far as the medical aspect of it, we are in much support of research, and it's one thing that I do pass the information from the Alzheimer's Association onto my support groups about the clinical trials, because this is one way that in the future this will help all of us. So clinical trials are being done here in the city of Omaha, and we're very fortunate to have so many medical facilities that support clinical trials to help Alzheimer's especially.
Wonderful. Now we're going to go back to the audience. It seems to have some great questions, so we're going to continue.
Now for Cheryl, you've been involved since 2003, but professionally you've worked in this arena for longer. What type of, tell me about a story, or tell me about a family that personally impacted you in your work as a volunteer. Can you tell us a little bit about that click moment where you thought to yourself, wow, this family really benefited from the volunteering that I do?
Back when I was practicing as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I would have families that would bring in their loved ones that they were caring for at home, and basically what I would do is assess them, diagnose if necessary, and treat the client medically. And this one family surrounded their mother. The daughters were very attentive. They had around-the-clock care. And the husband was there with her every day. And the family just really thrived on the fact that every month they could come in and I would talk to them, see how they're doing from a month-to-month basis. And I could see that they cared dearly for their loved one. And those are things that just really touched my heart and just said, you know, the Alzheimer's is such a wonderful organization to support families and give them the opportunity to have respite care for the father so that he could still be able to catch up with his old buddies and spend some time away from his wife, but then have his daughters there also so that they could help care for their mother. And that's very touching for me.
Wow.
It seems like there's a bit of a ripple effect on families. I'm hearing that from Jarad and from Cheryl professionally. It seems like this disease doesn't just impact family caregivers, it doesn't just impact the person with the disease, but it really ripples to the family. Is that a true statement? Is that accurate?
Oh, I agree. It affects every member of the family, from the, say, spouse all the way down to the great-grandchildren. And one thing that we stress in our support group is, and I think I'm one that pushes it so much more, but photos and photo albums, the reminiscing.
Yeah.
Sit down with your loved one, and they may not be able to tell you who won the presidential election yesterday, but they can look at that photo album and say, oh, there's Dad. That's when he walked me down the aisle to my wedding. Oh, that's your grandmother. There's so many things that they can still take part in with the grandchildren or great-grandchildren. And I really support families trying to be with the loved one and have moments of reminiscing.
That's so true. And they say, as a caregiver or a family member with someone with Alzheimer's, you literally go through the grieving process twice. You lose them twice. You lose them when you lose them as a person, and then you lose them when they pass away. And if I just can imagine going through the grieving process twice for one person as a caregiver.
One of the things I'd like to elaborate on that personally is while they're going through the process, while we're losing them as a person, it is a long, drawn out, there is no end to this grief.
No.
It's like rinse and repeat. You know, we're in a continual grieving process. And then I agree, when they actually pass, it's another grieving process. It's just depending on the length of this disease and how long it takes. It takes a toll on a person because they can't just grieve. It's a new process every time they talk to this person. Like you said, some days they're unable to connect with their emotions, and other days they can. And each time they make contact, it's different for each person. My husband talks to his mother daily. She doesn't remember, and each conversation is so different. It's any conversation you have with somebody is different, but this is emotionally different. And I watch him go through this process, and he becomes distraught or withdrawn or just closed off because he hurts so bad. So, you know, on that aspect, that's one reason it's like I can't commend you guys enough because you help us so much. I can't do a whole lot for him, and maybe you can't either, but he's not doing it alone. And I can only do so much. And that's where you and the Alzheimer's Association and the communities around him. So thank you. More questions?
If you could tell a prospective volunteer about your volunteer experience, what would you say?
We'll start with Cheryl.
For me, just continuing to use the skills that I have as a healthcare professional it's been very rewarding because I still feel like even though I retired from full-time work, I can continue to give some help to the community, and it's help that is very much needed.
Yeah, and I would say life is all about giving back, and no matter what cause you pick, it's just important to pick a cause and go with it. So with the Alzheimer's Association, this is an excellent organization to get behind, and it's a powerful experience to be a volunteer. Very powerful.
And I understand that Alzheimer's is not necessarily a growing disease. I understand it's becoming more in the forefront. I don't know how to say that. You know, it's been around. It's just maybe
People just
been
don't talk about it.
people don't talk about, or it's been masked as something else. So but also the population is reaching the age of even young onset, and so it's going to be more pronounced, more common. Am I using the right terms? So we really need to help find a cure. And one of the things somebody had referred to as Alzheimer's is today as polio was generations ago, or HIV was. So they found cures, or at least they found
Because
treatments.
society got behind them.
Right, or found treatment, and that's what we're after.
Yeah.
That's what this is
We're
about.
right
This is-
there.
you want to kind of speak to that? You're right there. Society's behind
Well,
it.
I just,
Yeah.
seeing it in the mass media, seeing these movies come out and seeing more people talk about it and celebrities getting behind this cause, it just excites me so much because we are right there. This needs to be an issue in politics. It needs to be an issue across the board everywhere, and it's coming.
And also, as Jared was saying, with the mass media being so into, say, promoting what's going on with Alzheimer's, it's now becoming more of a disease that is being talked to amongst family members and the community more, because of the fact that before it would be, well, grandma just doesn't remember. Or
Right.
grandma's just kind of she's senile.
Right.
Now, grandma has dementia, or grandma has Alzheimer's, and it's being recognized as what it is. And the fact that there are things that can help grandma so that the quality of her life is so much better than just having her hidden off in the house all day because you don't want company to see how grandma really is.
Right, and I agree, and I think that's where a lot of the awareness is too, is we've got Alzheimer's memory care communities. We've got people who are, I bring my mother-in-law out to lunch, and the staff will come up and start talking to her, I kind of whisper, she has Alzheimer's, and then immediately they take very gentle care of her. They don't get short with the fact that, she doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't remember. She'll look at the menu. I can't read this. And it's maybe that she can't read it. She maybe just doesn't comprehend what it's saying.
Right.
She knows the words,
Right.
but there's a disconnect. And it's wonderful that because of the awareness, what Alzheimer's Association has done, what the community has come behind, the celebrities, the volunteers, there's just enough. Well, there's never enough, but there's people out there who are making this aware, and like you said, we don't have to hide away our family members anymore. It's not, oh my God, they're the old words cripple, or they're senile, or they're put away. That's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about. So with what you both do, as well as the hundreds of volunteers and the staff at Alzheimer's Association and other facilities, yes, we are kind of plugging Alzheimer's because that's what we're doing, but there's other ways to volunteer in other organizations that we can help ourselves. And we're getting ready to wrap this segment up. Is there anything you'd like to share, or any last comments, ideas you'd like to kind of put out there?
Well, I guess, and you probably hear this all the time, but this is such a sad disease, and really powerful thing about it to me is when people and caregivers and the people that have it say, I wish I had cancer instead.
Oh, yeah.
That just shows you what this is. Like, if you wish you had cancer instead of Alzheimer's, that shows you why we need to be behind this cause.
Mhm. And I say, right on, fight the stigma and support the Alzheimer's Association.
Get out there and do the walk. The walk is coming up in September. You can contact the Alzheimer's Association. We will have the website. We will have the phone number. We have Mike Eubanks, who has been on the show. He's a young onset person with diagnosis. His blog information is out there. Is there anything coming up soon that we should be aware of? Anybody know of anything other than the walk?
We have support groups, and those support groups go on almost every day. So please refer to the Alzheimer's Association to find a support group that's closest to your location. And mine is just one support group. But like I said, there are support groups throughout the city and throughout the region.
They're everywhere. And feel free to contact us. We'll hook you up. We'll give you what you need. So any other questions, comments, queries, or posers from the audience? I think we've got it covered. And thank you guys very much for coming out and sharing your information. And even thank you more for volunteering. You've made my life, my husband's life, and anyone who's even touched Alzheimer's, at least a better life. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching Positive Momentum TV. We will see you on the next episode.